You know where you stand, brother, beneath the weight of your own sin. Do you remember the oath of moment? The one we swore before the lion statue, before the heresy tore us asunder.
I remember lies. I remember the angels who abandoned their kin in the fire.
You remember what suits your guilt. The truth, however, does not care for your comfort. You were one of us, a son of Caliban, a bearer of the lion's gene. Yet you chose rebellion, turned your blade against your brothers, and watched our planet fall.
And you? What are you now? Jailers? Torturers? Do you think the Emperor would bless what you've become?
Blessings are for the pure. We deal in penance. The Emperor's light will not make you admit what you have done, but perhaps his shadow can.
Think pain can wash away the treachery?
No, pain reveals it. Pain strips away the lies. Pain speaks the truth when all else fails. Tell me, brother, when the lion returns, and he will, what shall I tell him of you?
Say I wasn't afraid.
You will be.
Alright, this video has just not gone my way. I smashed my mic the other night because I tugged on the cord too hard and it fell off my desk, and now there's a big dimple on the back of it. And as far as I can tell, it hasn't affected the audio too badly, but, there's only one way to find out. Also, the entire audio recording for this got corrupted while I was in the middle of editing it, and there was no way to salvage it, so what was going to be a normally edited video is now just going to be a bunch of pictures roaming across the screen, as I'm probably going to barely edit the audio for this one. But knights are pretty cool, aren't they? And I'm starting to feel that human entertainment is a cycle. After the medieval ages, France and other places, mostly France actually, now that I think about it, romanticized the idea of knights and chivalry a lot, and that's where we got stuff like Canterbury Tales. Fun fact, Lancelot is someone's OC, and that's not even a meme. Knightly stuff goes away by around World War I due to the fact that it was somewhat used a little bit as propaganda and left a poor taste in people's mouths due to, World War II being pretty fucking awful. Blackadder is a series from the BBC back in the 80s, I think. I think the last season revolves around World War I, and despite it being a very comedic show, and it's still like black comedy, the final episode ends with the characters going over the top and they're presumed killed at the end. Chivalry, honor, and duty were used to get young men to join the British Army, and a lot of good young men died for nothing. Fast forward, knights aren't really shown off much. Seventh Seal was a thing, depressing, but it was still a thing. But this wasn't around until like the 1980s. I feel like knights started to come back, especially with the cult classic movie Excalibur. I mean, just like go look at it. It's just peak 80s aesthetic, and I feel like the 80s is just unrivaled in like dark fantasy aesthetic, like Conan the Barbarian and, well, Excalibur. But you know what else came out in the 80s? Warhammer 1st Edition, Rogue Trader, which eventually fully became Warhammer 40k, with 2nd Edition, as a few other chapters aside from the Crimson Fist came out, including the Dark Angels. Obviously, Warhammer has its ups and downs, but continuing on into the present day, we now have more models for the Dark Angels, and yeah, I don't think chivalry is dead with this one, and the British actually brought it back for once. I mean, just look at these models. Like, they're actually just fucking sick, and I got some opinions on Dark Angels, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Hello, I am Dodium, the Man of the Broken Tower, here again to talk about yet another flavor of Fruit Loop Marines, this time the First Legion, the Sons of the Lion, who do not concern themselves with employment. Or the Fallen. What Fallen? Anyways, the Dark Angels, huh? Who are they? Where did they come from? And why are they such awful fucking people? Like, holy shit, Lion, you fucked up. More on that after this message. Subscribe. So, the Dark Angels, huh? What the fuck is their deal? We went from guys in just like normal black armor to guys in robes torturing fellow Astartes, so what the fuck happened? We gotta turn our eyes over to, yeah, we're going through the entire history of the Dark Angels in this video, by the way. We're gonna turn our eyes over to the Death World of Caliban. Apparently a majority of the Primarchs come from Death World, and I'm starting to see why a majority of them just came out fucked up. The Death World of Caliban was a feudal technology level, and it was kind of their main cause of concern because the entire planet was also just swarmed by monsters that have existed throughout the entire planet's history. They're just all like apex predators or something stupid like that. The problem is that we're not playing a Monster Hunter game, so people on Caliban aren't exactly just like scarfing down giant pieces of meat and boxing up T-Rexes. I mean, I don't think Lazarus can offset a fucking T-Rex. Actually, maybe Space Marines can't offset a T-Rex. Can a Space Marine beat a T-Rex? Food for thought. Regardless, at this point, Caliban is still mostly a feudal world. There's not really much room for technology advancing due to the fact that Caliban is constantly being assaulted by monsters. Enter Lionel Johnson, which is, for anybody who's wondering, the name is actually a reference to Lionel Johnson, a British poet, and his most famous work, I believe, is The Dark Angel, which is kind of neat. The Lion's pod crashed on Caliban, and he is really far away from human civilization. He grows up to be a feral man, and eventually a group of knights known as the Order show up and believe him to be a monster like everything else. Granted, I mean, just like the lion is like at this point 9 feet tall and beating the shit out of T-Rex with his bare hands. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they thought he was some sort of just humanoid monster. Regardless, their leader, Luther, saw the lion for what he was. A man. A massive ass man, but he was still a man nonetheless. The lion would be named after the deadliest, most sadistic creature on Caliban, which is kind of funny, the Calibanite lion. Hence the name, Lionel Johnson. I don't know if Luther's last name is Johnson. Maybe that's why there's the L Johnson, Lion of Johnson. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? Luther would help raise and train Lion, teaching him honor, chivalry, so on and so forth, all the dumb knightly traditional things. I'm sorry, it's not dumb, I'm just being mean. The two formed an incredibly strong father and son bond, and Luther took great pride in the fact that he helped teach the Lion and made him what he was. They ended up defeating the other orders of knights on the planet, and as well as slaying every single monster on Caliban, apparently. Like, okay, we're just gonna wipe an entire ecosystem. This will not have ramifications for the future. Well, I mean, other stuff had ramifications for the future, but we're getting to that. 40k is dumb. We just need to accept it. Big E shows up, gives his spiel. It really doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is a few things. Lion during the Great Crusade and Lion post-Heresy, because post-Heresy Lion is just the best. During the Great Crusade, the Lion was an absolute fucking monster. This guy was in the running to become War Master over Horus, despite the fact that he's the firstborn and, you know, numbers and all that shit kind of matters. Horus was still given the task of War Master because Big E was, you know, playing favorites, despite the fact that a lot of people disagreed with it. That being said, the Dark Angels could not catch a break during a majority of the Heresy. They weren't, like, decimated like the Salamanders or the Raven Guard, but they just kept getting delayed and blocked at every turn whenever they were needed somewhere. There was also the whole Imperium Secundus debacle, where the ruin storm made by the Wordbearers stopped Lion, Sanguinius, and Gilliman from returning to Terra, and they were effectively stuck in the Ultramar system, where they ended up making their own Imperium. Keep in mind, the Horus Heresy lasted, like, 3 years, and Gilliman himself said that this was a stupid idea and they don't know why they bothered with it. I'm mentioning this purely because while Kurz was playing Among Us against the Three Legions, Lion wanted to nuclearly bomb the planet Kurz was on. Gilliman's mom was on said planet. Lion's just kind of wild, I guess. Regardless, the Dark Angels are notably absent from the Siege of Terra. The reason for that being is that the Astronomicon turned off or was masked, and the Lion thought Terra fell. So instead of making his way blindly through the warp towards Terra, he proceeded to decimate a few planets, including the homeworlds of Mortarion and Fulgrim. Based as fuck. The Dark Angels and the Lion are far too late when they make it back to Terra, Lion finding his father interned on the Golden Throne, and then the real shit happens. What's realer than the Siege of Terra, you ask? Remember Luther? So, Luther is in the same boat as Corpharon, who we'll talk about when we go to the Wordbearers episode, but he's a lot like Corpharon, which is Lorgar's adopted father. He was too old to become a full-on Space Marine, and the process of becoming a full-on Space Marine would have ended up killing him. So he's instead a super augmented human that would one day die. He doesn't have Space Marine organs, he doesn't have their cybernetics, he would die. Despite the fact that he's lived far more than most humans ever would, and the fact that he helped raise Lion, Luther was a bit jealous, to say the least. Also, not particularly the safest person. For instance, he found a Xenos nuclear weapon aboard the Lion ship and contemplated letting it go off and kill the Lion. Luther's conscience kicked in, thankfully, and he disabled the thing, but Lion eventually learned about Luther's plot at some point, and the two were not on good terms after that. So why was Luther thinking about killing Lion? Well, like I said, he's jealous. Luther saw the Lion, saw all the glory and the fame that he was getting, and it irked him. Luther raised Lion, he taught him everything he knew, and what does Luther get? An extended lifespan? He's gonna die, nothing changes. Lion sends Luther back to Caliban to have him be in charge of recruitment efforts, and that was probably the final straw. Luther does recruiting efforts alright, but begins persuading the Dark Angels back on Caliban that the Lion had abandoned them and betrayed them. Lion discovers what happened to Caliban, learning what Luther did, and at this point, Chaos has infested the planet almost entirely. So what does the lion do? His old way of fighting hasn't exactly done him any favors, and it ended up with his dad basically dead and left on the throne, so maybe he tries to speak with Luther. No, he orbitally bombards the planet, and he keeps bombarding it actually. Even when he's leading Dark Angels into the old fortress monastery and confronting Luther, the planet is still getting bombed. Lion ends up finding Luther and sees that he got boosted up by chaos almost in the same way that Horus did. Luther at this point is actually a match for the lion, father and son battling each other to the death, while the planet around them is literally, physically, and psychically cracking due to the orbital bombardment and the psychic backlash of this turmoil, and it doesn't make things any better. Luther ends up wounding Lion with a psychic attack, as Luther spends a lot of his time on Caliban poring over chaos tomes and learning psychic powers and magic as much as he could, and the lion falls wounded. Luther, in that moment, realizes what he had done, and instead of killing the lion, he refuses to strike him down and throws his sword away. The Chaos Gods then send a fucking warp storm to engulf the planet and rip it to pieces, because if they can't win, well, nobody can. Except the Fortress Monastery was protected by void shields or something, and enter stage left the Watchers of the Dark, a race of tiny roped creatures native to Caliban, and ever helpful to the people of Caliban and the Dark Angels specifically. These guys have been on Caliban for pretty much as long as mankind was, and their mere presence dissuaded the beasts of Caliban from attacking where they were. So, by the standards of the Dark Angels, these guys are alright. When the Dark Angels made it to the scene of the duel, they found Luther broken and mumbling that the lion had been taken by the Watchers, and that he would one day return to forgive him for his sins. Luther is taken into custody by the Dark Angels. The rock would be created from a chunk of the Fortress Monastery. It is a mobile fortress planetoid that would act as the home base for the Dark Angels, able to travel across the galaxy with ease. But where's Lion? Well, Luther was right. The Watchers had taken Lion, but it's even funnier than you think. Lion never left the rock. He was hidden within it, and the Watchers of the Dark would tend to his wounds and fix them up over the course of 10,000 years. He was literally just sleeping in a chamber somewhere and nobody could find it. Also, probably because the Watchers in the Dark were killing anybody who would get close to the truth, but we're not going to talk about that yet. Luther one day is found missing as the forces of chaos assaulted the rock during the opening of the Great Rift, and it's assumed he's assembling more fallen traitor Dark Angels, but I sort of doubt that, and if you know anything about 40k, you know that the lion is back. So that's the origins of the Dark Angels, and fuck, we're actually not even kind of done. So, Fallen. They're a lot more of a problem than I thought. So I make fun of the Fallen a lot just as a concept. It's just stupid to me. The Dark Angels are ashamed that they had Space Marine traitors. Like, entire legions fell, my guy. Like, what does it matter? Well, there's a few things that actually do kind of matter, and I kind of understand now at this point. For instance, nobody knew the Dark Angels fell, at least it's not widely known. All of their traitor activities were done on Caliban outside of the Lion's knowledge, and just outside of the knowledge of the Legion in general. And it was ignored for quite some time. Luther didn't amass like 5 guys, he converted an entire planet and killed any dissenters that dare spoke against him. Another reason is that the Lion was the Emperor's first son, and the Dark Angels are the legion of that son. They are the first legion. They are held up to a much higher standard, and if they fail, it's a great mark of shame, and not everybody knows about it, so, you know, why tell anybody? Hence, the Dark Angels have their secret night council thing, the not-so-secret police aesthetic going on. They care about hunting down the Fallen and the people that besmirch their name and the name of the Lion, and they seek to make them pay. I kind of get it, honestly, after looking into it a lot more. I still think it's kind of stupid, but it's a lot less dumb than I thought it was. It's more just like a minor plot hole level of dumb. Like, you can have suspension of disbelief and just kind of deal with it. This goes into the idea of the unforgiven, which is the term that refers to the fact that the Dark Angels, the quotations, let Caliban fall. They kind of fucking blew it up, honestly, and also let the Fallen exist to begin with. The funniest thing is that they're obsessed with dealing with the Fallen to make them repent, which it sounds like what you think it is. They have them repent for their sins and turning traitor, and then they just fucking kill them. Wow, the script is actually already pretty far along, a few pages, and we're barely even leaving the origins fully. Holy shit. I kind of want to just talk about what makes the Dark Angels neat just a little bit before we go back to modern day Lion. There's this thing called the hexagrammatron. I'm going to be real, I don't understand what it is outside of an explanation for just there being multiple different wings of the Dark Angels. Most of the wings no longer exist due to the Horus Heresy and the Codex Astartes existing, and, you know, not that they list they're non-Codex compliant, but still. There's 3 wings that exist right now. There is the Green Wing, which is your standard Dark Angels Codex compliant chapter affair thing going on. The Raven Wing, which are fast attack plasma enthusiasts that like LARPing as White Scars, and by far everyone's favorite, the Death Wing. Terminator veterans of the Dark Angels who hunt down the Fallen with intense vitriol. Everybody loves their aesthetic. Everybody fucking hates fighting them, and I do too. There's even a video game about them, but don't play it. It's not the best. or do. Just be warned that the newer edition has kamikaze bombers that ruin melee. I'm going to talk about Deathwing a little bit more because I think, despite the fact that I hate fighting against them, I do like them the most. Their entire playstyle is just spamming Terminators, and it's just being hard to shift on the tabletop. They also just have drip, and like just the Dark Angels in general have drip. Like, look at that, they have robes and shit. Like, they're clearly important. Raven Wing haven't been updated yet, and it's a damn shame because they're actually really fucking cool. They're just a bunch of bikes with plasma guns and war picks rather than bolters and chainswords. And Samael has a jet bike, which is pretty fucking sick, but Samael is also like resin, I think, or something stupid like that. Green Wing is obviously nothing special, but I mean, they got Lazarus, who kind of looks like Cipher, and right, I need to talk about the Fallen. Fuck. Okay, so the Fallen are traitor Dark Angels, right? Right. It's a very basic overview of who and what they are. They vary from Renegade to full Chaos Corruption. As a matter of fact, some of the Fallen still just look like Heresy era Dark Angels. They still just have black armor with like cream robes, and they don't look really Chaos Corrupted. So things become incredibly confusing for anybody who don't know. As stated previously, the Unforgiven, the Dark Angels who know about the Fallen, who dedicate their entire lives to fighting them, keep the Fallen a secret and hunt them down with extreme prejudice. This is to their own detriment, even the detriment of the wider Imperium, which is kind of funny. If the Dark Angels catch the hint of a Fallen is just nearby, not even like a confirmation, just a hint, they will literally drop everything they're doing and go and hunt them down. I should specify, the Unforgiven will do this, not the entire Dark Angels as a whole. Not every Dark Angel knows about the Fallen. But the thing about the Fallen is that they're a problem in two ways, and they're really just the same problem. It's just one is accentuating the bigger problem. So we're going to go ahead and talk about Cipher. He's the only Fallen named character on the tabletop. Cipher is assumed to be a single Fallen Marine. It is unknown if this is the case, but it's highly likely. There's a lot of memes of the Alpha Legion being secret loyalists, but Cipher is literally the embodiment of that Alpha Legion meme. He's an enigma of a character, and that's kind of the point. He's been seen organizing the collapse of hive worlds, helping loyalists exterminate chaos cultists, stealing from both Chaos and the Imperium. It is utterly unknown what his objective is. He's a renegade, certainly, but it's unknown if he's chaos corrupted at this point. Here's the thing about Cipher, it's his war gear. First off, he wears robes, which, you know, clearly he's important, but he also dual wields a plasma pistol and a bolt pistol, and that shit fucking hurts, actually. He gets to use it in melee as like a melee weapon, just like the gun profile in melee. It's kind of funny. But he also has this big-ass sword, which is weird. It's assumedly the Lion Sword from the Heresy, broken, useless, but there's a rumor that Cipher is trying to take the sword to the God Emperor so that it may be repaired and Cipher may be absolved of his sins. That sounds kind of crazy, right? Well, here's the thing. There's a book. Cipher nearly made it to the Emperor. Spoilers for the book Lord of the Fallen, but Cipher and some Fallen end up on Terra, and they're running around the Imperial Underdark. Cipher, rather than trying to leave, is making his way to the throne room using a secret passage that nobody else knows about, seemingly, except for, obviously, the Custodes, which is the person who ends up confronting Cipher. And rather than the two fighting, Cipher gets told by the Custodian, not yet. Cipher, who has Dark Angels and Officio Assassinorum hot on his heels right now, literally turns back and goes the other direction and follows the Custodian's orders. What the fuck? What the fuck is going on with this guy? This isn't like old lore. This book came out in like 2023 or something. It's like really recent. What the fuck is Cipher's deal? Well, we don't know. And that's kind of why I don't like the Fallen. They're a giant nothing burger that's existed because old lore until now. The Lion is awake. He's returned. He's back. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say this. I have not fully read Sons of the Forest, and I don't recall much of Arcs of Omen, and I'm already late on this video, but if I remember correctly, the Lion awakens and he meets with the Watchers of the Dark. He is given 2 items. He's given a new sword called Fealty and the Emperor's Shield. Fucking what? So it's clear that every Primarch is going to be given pieces of the Emperor's armory now, and the Lion got the shield. Why not the sword? Well, Gilman has the sword, and I feel like I know why it's not the other way around. Lion, all his life, was kill first, ask questions never. Maybe giving him the shield was an attempt to make him fight more defensively and not fight recklessly and needlessly. It was a way to temper his emotions. Who knows? He also kind of kills Angron with the shield, I think, actually, so it didn't really work out. Regardless, the Lion now has a new ability where he can just, like, warp travel. It's called Forest Walking. He's able to enter a reality that looks similar to Caliban before it got destroyed, and he can appear virtually anywhere. The Lion is able to cross the Great Rift with ease and bring people with him. Firstly, he ends up meeting a Chaos Sorcerer, I think, who he easily beats, and the Lion feels, like, weak, like almost sick, and he demands the Sorcerer to know what spell he put on him. The Sorcerer laughs and merely tells Lion, "You got old." I think Lion looks at his reflection at some point, I believe, and the dude just looks like fucking Tywin Lannister or Charles Dance, whatever you want to refer to him as. It's actually incredibly uncanny. Regardless, Lion eventually runs into Zabriel, a Fallen. Zabriel is a Heresy era Dark Angel. He ended up on some backwater world where Chaos Space Marines were hunting out the populace for sport. That was until he ended up having enough and started to fight to protect the populace. He was in charge of some survivors who brought a rather large band to Zabriel as they met him in the wild. It was the fucking Lion. Zabriel, remembering who the Lion was as a person who killed first and didn't ask questions, decided, well, it's time to fight or die. So he instantly started to blast at Lion, and Lion knocked him down on his ass and disarmed him. The only reason Lion didn't kill him is because the survivors told Lion what Zabriel was doing for them. Zabriel claimed that he was still loyal to Terra and the Imperium, and that the only reason he ever fought back was because Lion struck first. And I kind of struck a chord with Lion, and it's not inherently inaccurate. They literally just started bombing Caliban because Lion doesn't know how to fucking calm down. Lion is a lot like Perturabo in this way. He's mellowed the fuck out after the Heresy, and he learned about the Chaos Grip on the planet, and rather than trying to belittle Zabriel or try to deal with him then and there, he offered his help to Zabriel to kill all the Chaos Marines on the planet and free it. Zabriel agrees and becomes the first of the Risen, a fallen redeemed in the eyes of the Primarch and allowed back into the Dark Angels. And if I remember correctly, the Inner Circle companions are all comprised of Risen. That's why Fallen Lore kind of doesn't matter anymore. There's still Fallen out there, but the only ones who can be redeemed are those who are not tainted by chaos. People like Zabriel and possibly Cipher, which is why I think it's odd that the Custodes told Cipher not yet. I doubt they knew that the line was coming back, but who knows, maybe they got a vision. Jesus Christ, the script is getting long and I'm still talking about the history of the Dark Angels. This video is probably going to be less edited, honestly, but it's whatever. I just want to get this out so everybody can have it rather than me taking even longer with it with all the production delays that ended up coming with it. So what else is there to talk about the Dark Angels? I think the Watchers in the Dark are really funny, and I also just really like them. I wish they were their own unit, or I wish like every HQ had a little Watcher regardless of who they were. I think it would be really fun. These are literally just like little guys who walk around assisting the Dark Angels, and by the way, the reason why they dissuade monsters from attacking is because they're all pariahs, they're blanks. Psychic powers are weak, if not useless to them. And they also have a deep hatred, or at least mistrust of Psychers. The reason for that being is that I don't think they're exactly immune to Psychers, I think it's the inverse. So like how blanks negatively affect everybody around them, Psychers probably negatively affect the Watchers in the Dark when they're around them. So apparently, sometimes, I can't find where this is said, it might be in one of the old Dark Angel supplements, but sometimes Watchers just organize for Psychers to get killed, either on accident or an actual attempt at assassination. Alright, it's fucking 1:25 a.m. and this has gone on long enough, and I am a disaster of a human being. Like I said, I recorded this audio already, and it got corrupted midway through me trying to edit it. I don't know what happened. It's just not working. So I'm sorry if this video is less funny or engaging. I'm just frustrated with things not working on this time around. But don't feel bad for me. I choose to do this to myself. I should have just like had my schedule fixed so that way this didn't become a problem to begin with. I know I haven't gotten around to talking about specific characters, and frankly, I think it's because the Dark Angels have a lot of fucking characters. Like, it's actually really fucking annoying how many characters they have. They have like 6 characters or something crazy like that. But despite that, they're all incredibly interesting, and every model, at least the newer models, look fucking amazing. I mean, shit, even Samael looks really fucking good. I'm just gonna give him that too. I already knew quite a bit about Dark Angels going into this video, and I still enjoy what I learned from them, even if it was just a little. I like the Lion a lot more, especially after reading this. I failed my father. I fear I have also failed my brothers. I do not wish to fail my sons. Thanks for listening. And thanks to these channel members, all of you. I'm not going to read off everybody's names this time around. I'm tired. And don't worry, I'll make it up to you all with the orc video coming out on Halloween. That'll be some good fun. Despite that, thank you to these fucking psychopaths, that being Never Lost Man, Ape Brain Esquire, Istra, Robbie Nito, Soloing Pixie, Human Spirit Indomitus, Felix, Dism, you fuckhead, goddamn, I should not have told you about this channel, Vassalhab, and Gapg. I'm gonna go to bed. See you guys next week.